Welcome to sound design this summer. What I'd like to do is show you a few basics in Audition before we jump into things, just so you know how to get started. So first I'm going to click the Start menu and I'm going to hit Audition and it's going to open up. Remember that Audition is a Windows program, but it can also be used on Mac. I'm going to be using the Windows shortcuts, but of course, if you can either look on the web for your shortcuts or just remember that Command and Control are basically the same thing. Okay, so when we look at it, if we're just going to record, we can go to File, New, Audio File. And it wants me to name something. I'm just going to name it VoiceOver. And I'm going to use it in mono. Now, when we have channels of audio, there's just streams, kind of like think about your headphones. You have one stream of audio in one ear and one stream of audio in the other ear. These are called channels. Now, if we have two that are different but related, then it's called stereo. If we have the exact same thing in both ears, then it's mono. We can have as many speakers or as many ears as possible. If they're playing the exact same thing, it's still mono. So one channel that is in every single speaker. And so we'll talk about what the bit depth and that sort of thing is later, but basically remember, we're only having one channel because we have one microphone. So I'm going to hit OK. And here it is. When I play it back, I'm playing it back by hitting the space bar. You'll see there's nothing moving. And that's because I haven't recorded anything yet. So we'll look over to the red dot. The red dot is the record dot. And so if I click that, if my recordings are being made on my system, then it's going to record. Okay, so I have what we call the waveform editor. We call it that because it's only showing me one stream, either mono or stereo, for what we call one track. So if you have one track of music playing on your iPhone, then it's a track. We think of it as the same thing. It can be the mono or stereo, but it's one track. So in the interface here, we have this red line. We're always going to think of that red line as zero energy. We have this space here where it lets us work. I'm going to turn off this bottom space by going up to the icon and turning off the spectral frequency display. It doesn't matter what it is. But the point is, if I now hit record, that's the red button, just like it is on any other application. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop it. So there's my recording. If I now hit the space bar again to play it or hit the play button and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop it. So there it is. Now it's showed as being white is because it's selected. I'm telling the computer I want to work with it. I want to do something with it. But to be able to tell it I want to work with some smaller section of it, say the first half a second or something, I just make sure that I'm using this little thing that looks like an eye. It's called the time selection tool. I'm just going to click and drag it. And it's going to select just a portion of it. Now, if I want to get it totally gone, I can hit either the backspace or the delete button, and it will erase that portion of audio. If I hit Control Z, it's still there, but right now I've cut it. And speak, you'll see, in fact, I even want to get rid of the part where I take a breath. So again, I'll click and drag over that part. That's my breath. I'm going to hit backspace. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop it. And okay, so I'm going to say I want to hit the space bar to stop and I want to quit speaking. So I'm going to highlight that part that says it. I'm going to hit backspace again. And now when I play it, again, hitting spacebar or the play button and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the spacebar to stop and speak. Okay, so it is now could loop over and over again and play the exact same thing and sound like I'm speaking forever. Okay, so that's how to record just one track. But what if I want to work on more than one track? Let's say I want to record my voiceover, which I already did, and then put some music underneath it. I'm going to need another track. So to do that, we're going to use our multi-track editor. When I click that, it's going to ask me, what do you want to name it? And again, I'm going to name it voiceover, just like I did before, if I can spell. And it says stereo, so two tracks that are related but not the same. And now I see a different interface. It looks different. Don't worry about that. Just remember, every one of these rectangles is that same square that we saw in the other one, the waveform editor. So we have 1 track down to 6 tracks. Then we have this one down here that is named differently. It's called mix. Think of the mix track, it's called a mix bus. Think of it as a big yellow school bus. If all these tracks get onto the mix bus, it's going to go where the mix bus goes. And the mix bus will go to the speakers. So if I put something on the tracks, it's going to go on the mix bus and go out to the speakers. I've already done one thing. Remember, I already recorded my audio, but I don't see it here. Just like any other Adobe product, if I look at it, I can see a few things right away. One, if I have a blue line around any section, that means that the computer thinks I want to work there. So if I go over and click in this editor area, then the computer gets the blue line and thinks I want to work there. Right now, I'm going to go to the left. We're going to go to the files. You can see the files right here. It's a tab, just like in a browser. But I don't see everything I want to, and that's because I need to slide over to see my names. It says name right here, and there's my voiceover that I recorded before. The easiest way to bring it over the track is click on the icon and drag it, drop it in this information area so it starts right at the beginning. And now, if I hit the play and speak, you'll see that it's playing right away. What I want to do, however, is I want to hear music, and then I want to hear my voiceover. So to do that, I want to move my voice down farther in time so that I hear music first. To do that, I'm going to have to drag and move it. So the easiest way to do that is go up to the title. Sometimes we call it the title bar. Click it and then drag it. And I made a second maybe. Look up here. This is my, it's going to count down my seconds. Or if I zoom in farther so I'm closer to this, I can hit my plus key, plus, and zoom in, or minus, and zoom out. Now, if I want to see every single piece of audio that is on here, I'm going to go all the way to the right. And I'm going to look at this spyglass. It's called Zoom Out Full. And if I click it, it's going to show me every piece of audio that's here. Now, of course, I've only got one so far, so that's all it's showing me. So I've recorded this. What if I want to get more audio into it? I'm going to do what they call import. Importing is bringing audio that's already on your computer into the Audition program. So to do that, I have 3 ways. Adobe always gives me 3 ways. And the first thing I'm going to do is I can just double click in this area here and it'll open up a window, file window, and I can just go find what I want. And I got lots of things here. I think I'll just grab a piece of music. And now I have a piece of music here. I can tell it's audio because it's got the squiggly line. This squiggly line is called a waveform. It shows how loud the audio is at any moment. And again, I can do the same thing. I click on the icon, I drag it over, I put it in a different track. It's telling me one thing, that the audio does not match the format of my voiceover audio. And that's okay. Adobe really usually knows what to do. If it says press OK, I'm going to press OK, and it's going to be just fine. So now if I play it and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice. Okay, so there's a couple of things wrong here. One, the music doesn't start right at the beginning, so I got to change that. But as you can see, if I try to move it to the left, I can't move it because it keeps running into my beginning, my 0, 0, 0, my start point. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of some of the audio at the beginning. If I move my cursor, just like in Windows, the cursor is that black arrow there. If I move it to the very edge, it turns into a red bracket pointing towards where the audio is. If I click and drag that, the audio stays where it is, but all of a sudden, where my audio starts moves. Now, that audio is still there, but if I can't see it, I can't hear it. But now I can move it to the left. I'm going to make it so I start at the beginning. I can click the home button on my keyboard, hit the space bar on my keyboard to start playing, and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice. Okay, so there we go. I hear music and then I hear my voice. And really, I think I want to hear a little bit more music. So again, to move it, I click on its title and I move it to a place where the music is not as loud. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice. Okay, so now here's the other thing. When they're playing at the same time, they're above the same loudness, but that means it's kind of hard to understand what the voiceover is saying. So what we want to do is turn down that track 2. turn down the music. So to do that, we go over into the information, and the dial on the left is the volume. In fact, if I stop my cursor, you'll see volume. If I click and drag it to the left, it'll turn my volume down. And I see these numbers going down right now. Just think of them as an amount of volume that we're turning down. We'll talk about these specifics later. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the mic. Okay, as you can tell, at a certain portion, a certain part of that, the music gets much louder than I probably want it to be. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn down just that portion of the music. Now this dial over here, this volume changes the volume of everything for the whole track, the whole piece of music. But there's a way that I can turn down just a portion, and that involves this little yellow line. If I stop moving it, you'll see that the yellow line is the volume line. If I click it, I'm going to get a little dot. You have to click it twice. That blue dot tells Audition to be this loud at that moment. And now if I go down here where it's really loud, I'm going to click and make another dot. And if I drag it down, click and drag, it says at this moment, be this much quieter. So when we play it and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. That music is very loud. So I think I'm going to have to turn up my vocals, my voiceover. So if I click on it, again, it has that same volume line. If I click and drag it, I may have to click it twice. I don't want to, again, I'm going to put it up the same amount that I turned the other one down. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the... Okay, so a portion here is really loud, and I can't really tell where that starts and ends. So I could click this, or zoom out full, and see that the music is much, much longer. If you remember, I can change that. If I put my cursor at the end, I'm going to see my red bracket. If I click and drag towards the center, it's going to make it so I don't see that audio. Well, now I've got all this empty space and everything else is squeezed down here. So the easiest way to do it, again, to see everything, is to click on my zoom out full, but I want to show you one more way. Plus, plus, plus to zoom in, or minus, 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 zoom out. I can do that as many times as I want, but it's going to take a lot of minuses to zoom into where I want to be. So instead, I'm going to look up here in this gray box. If you look at this gray box, most of it is empty, just like this is empty. But down here at the left, we have two tracks, and you can see they're purple and green. That represents these. At each end of the gray box is a box that if I put my cursor on, I'll see arrows. Again, we're going to click and drag, and it'll be very quickly zoom to wherever that box is covering. That works out pretty well. This box here, you can call it the universe basically, because it will show you all the audio that is on your timeline in Audition that you're working on. And so I'm looking at just this portion. This is loud. I'm going to turn it down some more. Record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to actually turn that one down a little bit too. Okay, there we go. And really, if I look at this, it looks like this is not, the volume is not covering as loud as it could. So I can do two things. One, see these little hash marks down here? I can turn up my audio just by clicking and dragging those hash marks. That works out really well. And speak, you'll see that it starts. See, it's really loud now. Probably not going to turn it up quite that much. Now you can see what we got here is this little red dot is showing me that it got too loud. We call that overload. It's gone past the 0 mark. As you look down at our levels, you can see the colors bouncing up and down as we go towards the right as it gets louder and louder. At the end here, we see 0. Anything above 0 is going to be distorted. It's not going to sound right. And this is telling you, oh, at some point, this went above 0. To get rid of it, I just click it. And now if I play it, I turned it down a little bit. To record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Okay, so that sounds okay. But I think two things need to happen. One, I don't want it to get that loud again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it before it hits that 0 and gets distorted, gets to sounding bad. So to do that, I go down to our mix bus, our big yellow bus, and I click it so the computer knows I want to work with it. What we're going to do is we're going to add an effect. All that means is that we're going to tell the computer to do something without us telling it to do it every single time. It just does it automatically. So that's called an effect. If we look to the left, we have an effects rack. That's where we add our effects. That's how we can get this done. So here it is. This is our big yellow school bus. All the tracks are going to get on. And so it's a track effect. It's going to affect everything that hits that. And I have to go to this arrow to see what I want to do. I click the arrow on the right. I'm just going to stop at the first one, amplitude of compression, and select hard limiter. Now what we're doing is we're going to add this hard limiter effect to basically save our ears and to make sure that we don't get distortion in Audition. So if we click it, it's going to put up this. It does two things. It shows us a little window, and it tells us right here that it added the hard limiter effect. So on this window, we want to start out using presets. Presets are just something that Adobe put together for certain situations, and one of the situations may fit us. So let's look at it. If we click default, what we're going to do is we're going to limit to -6 dB. In other words, it's going to not ever let it go up to 0 and get distorted. So if we click it, that's all we have to do. To close this little window, you just click the X, the red box with the X in it. Now if I play it and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop it. Okay, so now it's never going over -6 because the hard limiter that we just put on is stopping it. That's a good thing. But not so good is the music just stops unnaturally. We don't want that. Doesn't sound good. So one, I'm going to go over, put my cursor on the edge, click and drag it so it's a little longer. But then I want it to fade out so that it's loud, and then it gradually gets softer until it goes away, basically. And that is what we're going to do with this gray box. This gray box is going to add a fade out. It's going to add a fade. So I click it and drag it towards the middle. You'll see it makes a yellow line. Now, hopefully, you're thinking about, the yellow line. It's the same volume line, and it is. And here, we're just going to make a little tiny one. We're going to click, we're going to drag a tiny bit on all the edges, just a little. And now when we play it and speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Okay, so it now played it all through, and it faded out at the end really nicely. Okay, so I like that. I may turn up the music a little bit at the end now that I have the limiter on, but I like it. So what I want to do is I want to put those two, I want to mix those two things together into one file so I can listen to it. And to do that, we're going to hit the menu up here on the top left. We're going to go to export. Now, you just have to remember this path. We'll talk about what it is, but export, multi-track mixdown is right in the middle, and entire session, which is also right in the middle. So what is that? Export is where Audition takes the audio, mixes all the tracks together, and then decides what it should sound like. And so that's called a mixdown, a multi-track mixdown, because it's all of the tracks. Entire session means it's going to take all the audio. It's not going to stop halfway through or make it 5 hours long. It's just going to be whatever the audio is. And when I click it, I get this window. So what is this window? If you look at it, it says export multi-track mixdown. That's good. That's what we asked it to do. First part is the volume name. So I seem to have spelled voiceover wrong. And I also want to make sure that my last name is always at the end, so the professor knows that it's mine. Okay, so I want to send it to someplace I know where it is. So I'm going to click browse, and I'm going to get a file up, and it's going to go there in my drive, and it says, oh, it's going to go to my drive A, but I'm going to change the format. We'll talk about that later. We're not going to change the sample. We're not going to change anything else. We're just going to hit OK. And when we do that, it's going to export this as one file. In fact, Audition just brought mine back. Now your preferences, the way your Audition is set up may not do that, but it allows me, if I double click it, to play the audio that we just put out. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Okay, so there it is. It mixed all the tracks together and made this file. I can go back to my multi-track by hitting the number 1 on my keyboard so I can see what I did. So what did we do? Well, first we recorded, and then we used volume to turn down the volume of the track. And then we used what we called keyframes, these little dots, to turn down the volume at specific places. And then we went to the edge and we looked at the fade boxes. That's what I call them, just fade boxes. And I click and drag them towards the middle, and they make the audio fade in or fade out. Worked pretty well. I think you now know almost everything to be able to use Audition. The last thing that you need to know is how to cut things apart and make them happen so that you can just have little portions or big portions, up to you. So again, let's bring in another piece of audio. I double click into the files, double click, and I see a bunch of audio. I'm going to go down to music. I'll just grab, I don't know, some sound effect. And we're going to grab a car, shall we say. That sounds fun. We'll just grab that. Now, I just added this piece of audio, and if I click on it, I can go down here and play it. Okay, so that's fun, but it takes way too long to happen. So what I want to do is I want to edit. So I'm going to click and drag it. I'll bring it on my next track. It's going to say the same thing. So I'm going to say okay. It told me to say okay, and I am. And I want to see the whole thing. So I'm going to click zoom out. Now I can tell right here that this is where it happens, and this is where all the quiet stuff was at the beginning. So I want to edit, get rid of that first part. To do that, I'm going to need a keyboard shortcut or to use this icon. This icon is called the razor select or the razor cut tool. If I click it or hit the keyboard shortcut R, I can now move in and it sees that razor. Click and I get a line. Now what does that line mean? I'm going to hit V, another keyboard shortcut, to get back to my move tool. And if I click on it and hit backspace, I can delete that away. Now what's happening is I have this part and the end part where it takes, again, a long time to go away. So I'm going to click and drag that. And I know this was pretty loud, so I'm going to turn it down. I could turn down the track, but I'm going to turn down this volume instead. Make it sound like it's out in the backyard somewhere. Voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Wow, I don't even need all that noise. Let's get rid of that too. We'll fade it out so it sounds like it's driving away. Fade it in so it sounds like it's driving closer, but it still sounds loud, so let's turn it down. The computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Okay, so now it sounds like I drove off on my motorbike. Okay, so there we go. We added another sound. I just click and drag it, made it longer. And speak, you'll see that it starts to record my voice, and it's going in the microphone, into the computer, and now being recorded in Audition. I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Okay, so that was kind of fun. I could export it again, but before I do that, I want to save it. Before you export, you do want to save your project. Your session file is what Audition calls it. The reason is twofold. One, your computer may crash. It does happen. And so saving it before you do something that's either going to change or that's going to be difficult, it's always a good idea. I can go up to my file and say File Save, or I can also use, just like I would in like Microsoft Word, Control S on my keyboard. Now, Audition is going to do something that's really helpful. It's saying, you have files that are all over your hard drive. Do you want me to just put them where I'm working? Because Audition is working inside one folder, and that way, if it's in there, it won't get lost. So again, Audition wants me to say yes. I say yes, because it's pretty smart. It says, do you want to save changes? Yes, I do, definitely. So I saved it in A, where my backup is. Okay, so if I want to, I'd save it someplace else. File, save as is saving it someplace else. And right now I told it to render my output in A, so I'm gonna send this to A also. Once I do that, it's gonna say, do you wanna move these things? I'm gonna say yes, that's gonna be helpful. Now let's go look at that. When you are turning in your projects, I need 2 files from you. And so let's look at what those 2 files are. The first file I need is your Adobe Audition session file. You can tell which one that is because it has a purple and black AU icon. Okay, so there it is. Okay, and I also need the one that has a target, the one that looks like a red and black target. That's the WAV file. That's the audio file. This one here that has the little lines on it, I don't need that. That PKF file is kind of worthless. And every time that Audition sees it, it's going to recreate it anyway, so no big deal. Okay, so I need your session file and I need your voiceover file. In fact, you could erase the other one, but I need both of those every time you upload audio. Okay, let's go look at how do you upload audio. Okay, so let's decide to upload this to our first exercise. Let's click section 1. Click on the voiceover, and you'll see that it gives the ability to browse local files. I'm going to upload. I'm going to go to where I upload that again. Browse local files, upload my audio again, and now I have 3 files, but one of them doesn't have my name on it. So if I go over, I can tell it, don't attach that one that's misnamed. It's going to say, are you sure? I'll say, okay, and hit submit. And it will now send those files up. Of course, I can't show you that because I can't submit this. Okay, so again, download the music from Audio Network. You can find how to get there by going to course resources. If I click course resources, right. I'm gonna cut this like crazy. Okay, so if I go over and click course resources, I can see that at the bottom we have our sound effects at SoundSnap with a user and a password, and our licensed music at Audio Network. If I go to those, SoundSnap first, it makes me click again for security. And then here we are. If we go to the top right, click log in, I can type in Regent SFX and the password, which is capital SOUND asterisk asterisk 2018. Tell them that I'm human. It's going to ask me what's a truck, that's truck, that's truck, that's truck. Log in. And now I can choose anything I want. Let's say I'm going to put in footsteps. Just click footsteps. Now to play them, I just click the play. I don't like that, but maybe this. Yeah, somebody didn't do that very well. Wow, that doesn't sound right either. Well, that's not terrible. Let's say I like that one. If I go over to our download, I can see I download our sound. It's that arrow pointing down. I click it. It's not going to download it into my download folder, whichever one that is. That's going to work the same way for Audio Network. If we go to Audio Network and go back again to my course resources, go down to the bottom, and here's my Audio Network. When I click that, I'm going to click and drag and copy so I can paste it. Control C, hit Audio Network again, click Audio Network. It's still going to make me sign in. I'll go over to log in. Now, the email we have to use is equipment@regent.edu. And the password is a little more complicated. Capital R3G3NT. In fact, I'll show you right here. Capital R3G3NT, capital MUSIC20. We go actually back there and look at it, click log in, and I'm in. Let's say the music I want is spring music. I like spring, why not? That works. So again, I go to the right, it's got that down pointing arrow. I'll click that. It's going to tell me it's going to send me a wave audio file. That's good. And that's going to download. It's going to take a little bit longer than the sound effect, but now they're both going to be in my download folder and I can use them in Audition.